Hi, I couldn't find anything on the Colorado website, so I did all of my research for the state of Missouri. The most common reason for boards to discipline a counselor was inappropriate relationships with a client, specifically in a sexual nature. This included sexual assault and sexual relationships. To be honest, I wasn't very surprised with this reoccurring theme. I think that when people are put in positions of power, this is a common way in our society today to assert power. I was surprised by a few uncommon cases. Like there was a woman who failed to pay her taxes on her business and was practicing while she was figuring it out, but it actually turned out that her license had been suspended. So until it was resolved. So she got put on probation for that. And another was a student who took her NCE exam prior to completing her master's program. So her provisional license that was granted to her was invalid. So she was fined and it was revoked. I struggled with figuring out where the current disciplinary actions were, just with the way that the website was set up. So I chose one that was in their current disciplinary actions, but it was from 2015. This case was between a counselor and a female client. He was described as making inappropriate comments about the client when discussing her eating disorder, and he continually let the client know that he was having marital problems and made inappropriate contact with the client after sessions. He had inquired several times about a sexual relationship and shared confidential information about this client with another client who happened to know the complainant. So he breached her confidentiality there. There were a lot of aspects of this case that were violated in both the Missouri State Code and the ACA Code of Ethics. The Missouri State Code prohibits inappropriate sexual comments in 12F, and the ACA Code of Ethics discusses confidentiality in A2B, which states that the clients have a right to confidentiality and to understand their limits. It also prohibits sexual relationships between a counselor and their clients, both in person and online. So those online messages would fall under this category as well, in A5A. This counselor was put on probation for 3 years, but can still practice counseling as long as he adheres to the terms of his settlement. The ACA Code of Ethics discusses impairment in C2G. It says that a counselor must monitor themselves for signs of impairments, and when a counselor does find themselves impaired, it's their responsibility to refrain from providing services until they have dealt with their impairment. The Missouri State Code also discusses impairment and basically has the same guidelines in Section 10. A question that did arise for me in this exercise is, how do we educate the public on what a healthy counselor-client relationship is? In almost all of the inappropriate relationship cases, the client stated that they were unaware that the relationship was inappropriate. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And I think it's important to educate the public prior to coming in to the counseling relationship, before that position of power is even put in place, which I think sometimes with the informed consent can do. And so just how do we educate the public more than simply in the informed consent to mitigate cases where the client was completely unaware of the abuse of power? Thanks so much.